Hi guys, it's Tamara coming back at you with another video. Welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be the final video of our conversation on emotionally detached parents and toxic parenting. So we've done maybe about 4 weeks of 3 videos a week talking about unhealthy and toxic parents. And so this is going to conclude our discussion. I'm going to post at least 2 to 3 of those previous videos in the description box below, just so that you can go back if you weren't able to keep up with us during this series. But I think this final video is going to be really important for us. I want to talk a little bit today, and I do have my notes over here. I want to talk a little bit about the negative effects of having a detached, emotionally detached and unhealthy parent raising you. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that experience. So the benefits for you in this video today is that you're going to be able to identify some common patterns of adults who have been raised by emotionally detached and toxic parents. So let's just go ahead and jump right in, because we have a brand new topic that we're going to be focusing on coming up Wednesday and Friday. So the first negative consequence of adults who have been raised by emotionally detached and toxic parents is what I like to call the risk versus protective factors effect. Okay, and what I mean by that is this: these are the risk factors, these are the protective factors. Which ones are going to win out, right? So risk factors: smoking, drinking, so substance abuse, prostitution, being promiscuous, or having a variety of sexual rendezvous, low self-esteem and low self-efficacy, lack of identity, lack of purpose, lack of meaning, suicidal thoughts, mental health conditions, domestic violence, dropping out of school, teenage pregnancy. All of those things are risk factors, right? So these are all the risk factors. Then we have those protective factors, those things that protect us from the risk factors: dedicated parents, stable attachment to a parental figure, predictability in one's upbringing, little to no substance use by the parents, firm boundaries, rules, limits, values, morals, all of that stuff, good parenting practices, all of that stuff. Those are all the protective factors. So once a child develops into an adolescent and an adult, you want to see more of those protective factors. You don't want to see the risk factors, because, believe it or not, it's going to lead to a very rocky adulthood. So I call it the risk factor and the protective factor effect. That's the first consequence of adults who have been raised by emotionally detached and toxic parents, right? So we want to, we want the protective factors to outweigh the risk factors 100%. The next one is poor relationships. We know that childhood kind of sets the stage for adult relationships. And if you're being raised by somebody, or you have been raised by somebody who has no idea how to have a stable, emotionally secure relationship, then your relationships in your adulthood are going to be affected as well. Some examples of that would be impulsive relationship decision making. So pregnancy without forethought, sexual encounters without forethought, pushing things too fast without forethought, lack of boundaries in the relationship, a power differential, so somebody else has more power in that relationship than you do, right? So poor relationships, your childhood relationships with your parent or caregiver really does set the stage for how relationships will be in your adulthood. The next one is substance abuse. When you don't have that firm foundation as a child growing up, the likelihood of you looking for comfort and security in other places is high. Very, very high. And for a lot of people, that tends to be substance abuse. They drink, they smoke, they justify their drinking and smoking. They integrate drinking and smoking, and not just smoking cigarettes. I mean, smoking marijuana, They justify that and integrate it into their daily lives and into every holiday and every party. It really is a medicine for them. It's self-soothing. It is self-medicating. So a lot of people who have had a very poor upbringing and haven't had that foundation of security with a parent or caregiver or guardian, they become adults who rely on substance abuse to kind of be their parent. It's that security that they've always lacked. The next one is borderline personality traits or narcissism. Research suggests that narcissistic adults, as well as adults with borderline personality disorder, often come from traumatic and unstable households. My understanding and my experience with people with borderline personality is that the parent will often be invalidating. They will be abusive in whatever capacity, physical, sexual, emotional, psychological. They will be dismissive. They will be careless. They will be every bit of what I've talked about in this series as a parent. What happens is the child growing up under this unstable, toxic, emotionally detached parent, they start to feel the pressure of not having a secure parent. And so they change up their attitudes, they change up their behaviors, they change up their perception of life just to meet that changing, labile, tornado-like disposition of that parent. As the child does that over time, they become adults who then have borderline personality disorder because they have learned over time how to be switchable and labile and changeable, and they haven't had that validation from a loving person. So they seek that in other relationships, and the way that most people with borderline personality disorder operate in relationships is basically in the same manner that a parent or caregiver has treated them over time. It's a scary reality, but that does happen. The next one is pathological liars or lying. Adults who have had a very unstable parent will often slip into pathological behaviors such as lying. Why? I am not entirely sure, and research lacks the amount of data that we need to figure that out. But we do know that pathological lying stems from insecurity most of the time, also stems from a compilation of risk factors. It also stems from a negative home environment most of the time, and definitely a person who is either narcissistic or insecure. Other than that, we lack the data that we need to make sense out of it. But just keep in mind that individuals who have grown up under emotionally detached and toxic parents, they tend to engage in pathological lying. So last but not least, there's unstable employment and work identity. So somebody who has had a very unstructured, toxic, and emotionally upsetting home environment growing up will most likely become adults who aren't able to have structure, predictability, and stability in their lives. So their work environment becomes unstable because they don't know how to make relationships work. Their identity is weak or non-existent. They have no idea how to manage their emotions, so they may blow up inappropriately or take things the wrong way or become too sensitive about something. Also, their weak identity leads to low self-esteem and low self-efficacy, so they don't see where they can progress in their work. They don't see where they can reach a much higher. So people who have been raised under unstable and emotionally detached parents will often become adults who have absolutely no idea who they are in their work. Does everybody turn out that way? Absolutely not. But those who do really are train wrecks because they hop from job to job to job, right? They job hop, just like they do relationships. They relationship hop, they job hop. They also end up building good relationships and then tearing them down, and then they have to leave or resign because the environment is too toxic. So adults become extraordinarily affected by the emotional instability of their caregivers. I don't want to be Sigmund Freud in saying that, if your childhood is unstable, so will your adulthood. But there is some evidence that proves that if your childhood is unhealthy and not very stable, 9 times out of 10, your adulthood would be the same way. Some people get out, some people escape, and that's the good part. All right, guys, so thanks so much for being with me today in this video. We're going to actually stop our conversation of toxic parents here. We could just go on for months, but I think that this is an appropriate stop. We've been doing this now for maybe sorry, there's like a little gnat flying around, I apologize. There's like 3 to 4 weeks of this topic that we focused on. So what I'm going to start doing is making these series kind of short so we can focus on other things. We're going to be talking about a lot of other things, guys, that I think you might really like. We're going to start talking about some psychological concepts that you may have not heard before, and I'm going to break them down and make them relatable and practical for you. In the meantime, guys, I encourage you to give this video a thumbs up if it was helpful to you, and to hit the subscribe button if you want to stick around and see what else there is on this channel. I also welcome your comments and your suggestions for topics. I'm always looking for new topics. And also, guys, thank you for all your love and support on this channel, as well as my website and my Twitter. I really appreciate your comments. They mean a lot to me, so thank you so much. I will see you in 2 days, Wednesday and Friday, with brand new videos. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Bye.